Welcome back. We are posed with a question. Why did the real killer sound the emergency buzzer? It was obviously to call the security guard, who was busy getting his face smashed in. The killer knew that if they pressed that button, a guard would come running. And that was exactly what they wanted. Do you mean to say that the killer called the guard on purpose? Yes, although as it turned out, he never showed up. Because he was getting his clock cleaned at the time, that's one way of putting it, especially with him. What a touching story. You're saying the killer had a change of heart and called the guard to turn himself in? No, you idiot. No, I'm not. When that buzzer sounded, there were 3 people in that office. The victim, Kane Bullitt, who was already dead. The defendant, Ron Delight, who was out cold. And the 3rd person, the real killer. Hypothetically, yes. Now then, in this situation, if the real killer made an escape, what would happen? The only ones left in the room would be the victim and Ron Delight. And if any security guards came running in at that time, they would think that I was the murderer. Yes, that was precisely the real killer's objective. To frame Ron Delight for the murder. It was steaming. What a waste of coffee. God, waste coffee. Order, order, order. It would seem... Ugh. I've been made to eat my words once again. No, that was the coffee, mate. That's how bad it is. You think it's food. Actually, you've been made to do a spit take of a cup of coffee. Mr. Wright, who was it? Who was it that tried to frame me? Wait. Wait a second. I'm the one and only Master Mask, so... Nick, you mean the real killer is? Of course. We're going to drag that person in here right now. But who is it? I don't have any solid proof yet, but... Think about it. The killer knew Mr. Delight's identity, and they also knew that he had been called to KB security that night. So the killer used him to execute a well-crafted plan to murder Kane Bullitt. Now then, let's hear your accusation, Mr. Wright. Who was it that framed Mr. Ron Delight for the murder of Kane Bullitt? Like, who we've basically been saying all along, really, you know. Luke Atmey.
Take that!
Detective Luke Atmey. He's the only one who could have done it. Ace Detective Luke Atmey. You mean Master Mask did it? No. No, I don't. Your Honor, the person being tried in the court next to us is not Master Mask at all. He is, in actuality, the true murderer of Kane Bullitt. Oh my, stop it. Order, Mr. Wright, explain yourself. Theft and murder. Which is the more serious crime? Well, they're not even close. Well, murder is a more serious crime, of course. It's a capital crime, subject to a capital punishment. Please remember the trial from yesterday, if you would. There was a trial yesterday? Yes, Your Honor. When Luke Atmey confessed, there was a huge commotion in the courtroom. Of course, the famous detective was Master Mask. Instead of being convicted of murder, he was found guilty of grand larceny. And that was his true objective all along. To be found guilty. Master Mask had the perfect alibi for when the murder took place. He was stealing the urn at Lordly Taylor. In other words, being found guilty as Master Mask was Luke Atmey's airtight, watertight, and unassailable alibi. A guilty verdict. As an alibi? Oh, it makes sense. You know, it's almost time. For what? Luke Atmey's verdict. It was a pretty simple trial, after all. If we're going to stop this trial and stall that one, we need to do it now. Of course. That's assuming you have proof that the detective was the one who committed the murder. Crap. Mr. Luke Atmey's trial has indeed attracted the attention of the entire country. If we were to intrude and fail to provide adequate proof of his true crime, Mr. Delight would be left with no grounds for appeal. Am I really sure about this? Yes! A bet's only good when your life's the ante. Mr. Wright, I believe in you. Mr. Delight. So, please, I'm begging you. Thanks, but my decision will determine the rest of your life. Can I really risk your life like this? Pheonix. What was that? Don't stray, Pheonix. For your client, take the path of trust. That voice. It sounds like... Mia. Your Honor, the defense requests an immediate recess. Huh. So that's your answer, huh? Very well. I've decided as well. This court will now take a 20-minute recess while I take my 20-minute nap. Mr. Wright, when we return, I will be well rested, but please summon Mr. Luke Atmey to the stand. Yes, Your Honor. October 14th, 11:58 a.m. District Court, Courtroom No. 5. Oh, hello. Well, Sir Detective Atmey? I have to say, Mr. Payne, you performed splendidly. Oh, no, Sir Detective Atmey. You were the one who... Oh my, that's enough. This court sees no reason to further prolong this trial. This court finds the defendant Luke Atmey... Wait! Don't hand down your verdict yet, please. Well, Sir Lawyer, welcome to my courtroom. Who's this oser, eh? My name is Phoenix Wright, attorney at law, and I wish to file an accusation against this man, Luke Atmey. Accusation? You accuse Master Mask? That man is not Master Mask. He's just a ruthless murderer. What? You're dripping, mate. Mate, you're dripping. You need a tissue? To be continued. Now. October 14th, 12:14 p.m. District Court, Defendant Lobby. Number 4. My sis. I could have sworn I heard Mia's voice. So then she's still alive, inside your heart. What? Nicky boy. Oh, Mr. Light. Is it true that a detective is the real killer? To be honest, we don't have any definite proof. But he's the only one who could have done it. But wasn't he at Lordly Taylor that night? Not to mention, we don't exactly know his motive. Because this is the question. It's like, okay, so we know that he was definitely at the murder scene. We know that Ron was at the murder scene, so who the hell was at Lordly Taylor? The only thing I can think of is, like, in regards to things, is like the time on the camera is wrong. Like, that would explain why, like, let's get to the picture, actually. So I can show you what I mean here. Like, the time in the top left is wrong. Like, or a different day? Because it doesn't give you a date, does it anyway? It just gives you a time, so it's like, if you just have roughly the right time, that's all that matters. But what does the printout say? Does the printout say at the right time? Where's the printout? Where am I going with the printout? Where's the printout? There. I guess it's before the image, and it threw me off. Warehouse camera went off once at around 1 AM on the night of the crime. The only way I could think of that is like maybe there was something else going on. Like maybe he said something up and my throat's going weird. Maybe he said something up, like maybe drop or something at that time that would trigger the camera. But again, we don't have any information on a date, just a time. It says the night of the crime, but are we sure? That's the only thing I can think of in terms of having some way, like that says night of the crime, but again, there's nothing there that proves it was the night of the crime. That's all I've got in my head so far. It's like, it's just... I've been suspicious of this picture for a while, and I'm assuming it's going to be something to do with the paint and the statue. And that's how it's going to be proven. That's all I've got in my head right now, so... We'll go with that kind of logic and see if it comes up correct or whatever. Not to mention we don't exactly know his motive. I mean, why would Detective Atmey want to kill Kane Bullard? Oops, it's almost time. Better get back to the courtroom. That's a good point as well. Why? Need to find some solid proof. It's gotta happen sooner rather than later. October 14th, 12:21 PM, District Court, Courtroom No. 6. Oh, number 6 again. Now then, this court is back in session. Mr. Luke Atmey, please take the stand. Well, well, how do you do, sir lawyer? I never would have thought to see you acting so recklessly. I couldn't let them hand down your verdict just yet. Not when it would have given you the perfect alibi. An alibi by the name of Master Mask. I'm sorry, I'm afraid even the great Luke Atmey has no idea what you mean. Of course, I have been in the next courtroom ever since 10 o'clock this morning. I'm afraid there's no way I could know what's been going on in here. You've been in the defendant's seat all day long, correct? Being tried as Master Mask. Indeed. It's truly child's play to fool the ignorant masses. Not only did the poor fools ask me to protect their valuables, they even gave me a generous reward upon returning their own property to them. Take this red diamond ring that sparkles upon my divine finger, for example. So you continue to insist that you are in fact Master Mask? Of course. Very well then, Luke Atmey. Let us begin with this simple question. On October 12th at 1 AM, Kane Bullard was murdered. Where were you at the time? One without knowledge lacks even the knowledge that he should be ashamed of himself. But don't worry. I will not hold it against you, Sir Judge. Thanks, sir. Alright, Mr. Atmey. The night of the murder. Speak. We're all ears. As you wish, Sir Prosecutor. The alibi. I was stealing the urn as Master Mask just as I announced I would. See, I probably want to press on this, like try and see if he stumbles or gets certain details wrong. I had more than enough time to prepare. It was a pathetically easy job. See, again, the fact the picture's shown up, this is going to be significant. It's the only evidence we have that anybody was there, so... A photograph contains no words, but in this case, one turned out to be my witness. The time at which the camera captured Master Mask was the same time as the murder. See, again, the fact it pointed that out. It seems the main point of discussion will be this photo of the crime scene. Okay, cool. Everything else up until now was all part of his plan. There has to be a secret to this picture as well. Even the great Master Mask cannot be in two places at once. Now then, if you'll excuse me, I have a verdict to receive. Unfortunately, Mr. Atmey, we still have to do your cross-examination. A fool is too foolish to know that he is a fool. I think he's trying to say that you're full of it, Nick. The only thing that's full of it is his alibi. Oh my. Confident, aren't you? The alibi! Right, here we go. Let's press on pretty much everything. I was stealing the urn as Master Mask just as I announced I would. So this photograph is the proof, correct? Indeed it is. And the man in the photo is certainly wearing a mask. And that is why I'm called Master Mask. But conveniently, that also means that there is no way to tell who this really is. Well, what do you mean?
Objection!
Huh. Are you saying that this is not in fact Luke Atmey? I mean, it could be Adrian, but that would be weird. Like, that's too much of a leap in logic, really. It could be an accomplice dressed up as Master Mask to create an alibi. I mean, it's in red, but I don't feel that's accurate. It's too far away from what we know. Oh, what an interesting idea! Are you saying that I, Lone Wolf Luke, had an accomplice? Like, I don't think there is, so... Unless I can say the camera itself. I'm gonna go and name the accomplice and then name him. And see if that's where it wants me to go. If Luke Atmey was at KB Security during the murder, then the Master Mask in this picture has to be a fake. Exactly. You had an accomplice. Now remember you've said that, Mr. Trite, because there's no going back. If you're making baseless claims, I'll treat you to a penalty myself. That penalty is probably boiling hot too. So who is it, Mr. Trite? Who was the accomplice? Well, I'm gonna go with him again, because I'm thinking it's like a different time, like he did that ahead of time. Because he planned all this, so it's like he would have planned the picture, so... There you go. He's his own accomplice. It was this person. Oh. Huh. That's quite the prank you're trying to pull. Do you have any evidence that this person is in fact the accomplice? Well... The aura the person has around them is... If you're going to judge someone by their aura, you'd be right up there as the #1 suspect, Mr. Wright. Crap. I jumped the gun on that one. Okay, well, my logic is sound in my head. Had more than enough time to prepare. It was a pathetically easy job. I believe Adrian Andrews hired you at one point? That's right. That was over 20 days ago, if I'm not mistaken. You sent the calling card to Lordly Taylor 10 days before the heist? That would mean you sent out the card after you began your security watch, right? Indeed. There was no reason why I couldn't do both jobs at once. It was the perfect opportunity to steal my latest target. I see. You truly are evil, aren't you? Yes, evil is what I am. Hey, Nick. Isn't there something odd about this? Detective Atmey was always proud of his ace detective skills, right? But if the urn was stolen from Lordly Taylor while he was the only one watching it, he'd have no way to maintain his perfect ace detective persona. You know, that's true. It is kind of odd. Photograph contains no words, but in this case, one turned out to be my witness. It contains numbers, though. So by photograph, you mean this piece of evidence here, is that correct? Indeed it is. That is it. The very thing that proves I committed the crime. The very thing that proves you committed the crime. When you think about it, it's really odd. You say that almost as if you had this picture taken on purpose. Yeah.
Objection!
He was simply caught by the very camera that he had set up. Which again goes with what Maya was saying with, like, the ace detective aspect. We all have days like that. Indeed, it turned out that there was no such thing as the perfect crime after all. Life is truly an ironic thing, a sad, blue melody. Looks like I'd better gather more information for now. If he's truly the killer, there's got to be something phony in that photo. The time at which the camera captured Master Mask was the same time as the murder. About the camera that took this photograph. Oh, come now, it's all too clear what you're thinking. Huh? You think I altered the timestamp on the photograph, don't you? Not altered it, no. I'm afraid that's impossible. The camera was set up by Lordly Taylor, and on top of that, it was Lordly Taylor's staff that printed that picture's data. Unfortunately for the defense, there's no way that picture could have been altered. No, I don't think it was altered, just taken at a different time. Again, it's got no date on it. I see. Looks like I'd better find something else that could be suspicious. So this alibi is false. Must be, or he couldn't have killed Mr. Bullard at KB Security. But I'm not really spotting anything unusual. There are two possibilities. Either the Master Mask in the photo is a fake, or the photo itself is. I was stealing the owner's Master Mask just as I announced I would. I had more than enough time to prepare his pathetically easy job. The photograph contains no words, but in this case, one turned out to be the witness. The time at which the camera captured Master Mask was the same time as the murder. It's that sort of thing, is that I want to pursue stuff in both of these again, I feel. It's like I want to like pursue the photograph being not fake, just planned. By photograph, you mean, is there any point to jump in here? Okay, that was new, isn't it? That means I could not have killed Kane Bullard unless I had an accomplice. Oh no. Think it long and hard. Wait, come on. Think long and hard about that night. The basement warehouse and the picture that supposedly captures it. Okay, this is different, isn't it? It's got to be here. Isn't there something funny about this picture? You bet there is. Are you implying that this picture is a fake? You bet I am. There's definitely something strange about this picture. We took a look around the basement warehouse that night before the theft took place. Well, then the only thing I can think of then is, because it was pointed out during that, is like, if that's meant to be the night of, that was next to the door. So why is it not there in the picture? And the only reason it's not there in the picture could be it was taken on a different day before someone decided to cover up the paint with a certain statue after she caused quite the mess. Adrian. And there's something in this photo that doesn't match my memory of that night. Very well, then let's hear what you have to say. What about this photograph do you find funny? It has to be this then, right? Like the whole paint situation, like there should be a statue standing here if that was the night of. The funny part is right here. Why, this is a blood stain. Ah, blood! Now this case is getting interesting. Not exactly. The stain is actually pink paint. Oh, just paint. And peach colored at that. From blood to peach, the judge sure loves going on his wild tangents. The problem with this photograph is not the paint. The problem is when you consider the layout of the basement warehouse. It turns out that something that should be there is nowhere to be seen. Well, Mr. Wright, what is supposed to be in this picture instead of the paint stains? Well, there we go. The supervisor of the treasure exhibit stated the following. Oh, there's a good reason for that. On the day of the crime around noon, that golden statue just happened to arrive from the mountain training hall. I realized that the statue would be the perfect size for covering up the paint stains. That's why I put it where you first saw it. I myself was there the night the theft took place, and saw the statue in that spot. If this picture was truly taken on that night, then this statue should have been there.
Objection!
But when I went there the day after the theft, that statue of the old bag was sitting in the corner. Perhaps it was somehow pushed there accidentally? Your Honor, this statue is slightly larger than yourself and quite heavy. It's on wheels though. It would take more than an accidental push to move it that distance, unless it was on a hill. In that case, can you prove it? Can you give us the rhyme and reason as to why that statue was moved that night? Can you do it, Nick? Never mind who moved it. The real question is, why did they move it? Yeah. Well, Mr. Wright, hope you're prepared with your answer. Now then, who was the one that moved the golden statue on the night of the crime? Huh. The only thing I can think of is going with that idea. Where's the photo? Going with that idea of like, okay, he took this photo ahead of time is what I'm thinking. So it's like, yeah, this is say like the night before the night of the crime. So it's like he prepared that ahead of time, be ready to do his murder the next day. So the statue wouldn't have been there, but the paint stuff would have been. Like that's all fits, that's all fine. But he'd need the record of something had happened. So again, assuming the idea that this has date information, it doesn't need to match up with the picture that we got. So it's like, how do you make it so it takes a picture? And then you can get rid of the other picture. But it's there on the camera data. It's like, have something move into the camera's view that's not yourself. Otherwise that would seem suspicious if you ever got caught. So again, it was moved again that night. So it's like, the only person I can think of that would move it in this case, with this kind of logic, which is very is Luke Atmey himself. And the one who moved the statue is none other than Luke Atmey. Come now, Sir Lawyer. There you go again on one of your strange delusions. Mr. Wright, what basis do you have for your strange delusions? It's very simple. The witness was the only one in the basement warehouse that night. And that is indeed very simple. However, yeah, that is true. I could have just gone with that logic, couldn't I? Why would I want to move a heavy golden statue? Reason for moving the golden statue. Here's where our battle really begins. Ugh. Well, Mr. Wright, what reason did the witness have to move the statue? Reason can be found here in this photograph. Can it? Look at me. You pretended to be Master Mask to create an alibi by showing you were at Lordly Taylor that night. This photograph contains a single fatal flaw. If the statue had been there, your lie would be exposed like cheap film at a drugstore. That is why you had to move the statue. Single fatal flaw. Interesting theory. Please enlighten us. Just where in this picture does this lie exist? Well, the only thing I can think of is, like, again, the time. Because, like, he moved the statue to make the record present the time, but I would have gone with the data rather than the picture. So I'm very sort of like, it's the only thing I can think of. Anything to do with the paint? Like, wouldn't the wheels go through the paint? Naturally, the lie in this photo is the timestamp, hopefully. What do you mean? I'll tell you exactly what I mean. Go on then. On the night in question, Luke Atmey went to KB Security and murdered Kane Bullard. Therefore, it's obvious. It would have been impossible for him to have been at Lordly Taylor at this time. Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. But what does that have to do with the statue being moved? Remember, if you will, Your Honor. When was this statue placed beside the warehouse door? Well, the statue was taken down to the warehouse on the day of the crime. If it was placed there in order to cover up the paint... Exactly. Luke Atmey had already decided on the time when he was going to kill the victim. And so, in order to create an alibi for that time, he took this picture days before the murder took place. Right, good. This still follows my logic. What the... Of course, the statue hadn't yet been brought down to the basement warehouse yet. So did he just move it so the picture made sense rather than trying to trigger the data? Ah. So on the day of the crime, Mr. Atmey must have been quite nervous. As nervous as a long-tailed cat in a rocking chair factory, so to speak. Why? Because something that wasn't supposed to be there had been brought down and placed where it wasn't supposed to be. And that is why Luke Atmey had to move the statue on the night of the murder. But if I was the prosecution now, I'd be like, but what about the data? You need to disprove the data. He did it to make the room match with the way it had been in this photo. What about the data? Oh, die, Mr. Atmey. Is this true? One moment, Your Honor. Have you forgotten this? Ah, thank you, Atmey. Oddly enough. What's that? The data for the basement warehouse computer. According to this, the camera did indeed go off on the night of the crime. Yeah. Like, nothing we've said disproves that, even though it's like, that's not the logic I would have gone with. It's true that the camera had been set up by Lordly Taylor's staff. However, the program used to manage that data was yours. That alone would have allowed you to tamper with the data. That's circumstantial. Yeah, quite makes sense, yes. Mr. Gadot, what's the meaning of this? Again, you could just say, like, well, you made that up. Gadot, I warned you about making me wait. Now put that coffee down. I've always liked the judge. My 11th cup. I promise to drink no more than 17 during a trial. Which means I'm still good to the last drop. However, the defense has a very good point. A good point. So what? We are all but travelers on a road of infinite points. I think he's got his points mixed up with his other points. So you say this photograph was taken ahead of time, and that the statue was moved in order to make it match. That's a very interesting idea. However, there's one point that can't be denied. Which is that it's only a possibility. It's like, strangely, I'm on Gadot's side here. It's like I would have presented this evidence slightly differently. Again, you know how my mind was thinking. It's like, Pheonix, you've left gaps in the logic. Men that are trapped by the chains of maybe can never reach their dreams. That's very true. No way, don't fall for that, Your Honor. Hey, Mr. Damask. Yes. If there's no funny business in your actions as Miss Damask, should be no problem with you telling us your strategy. So, let's hear it. Yes, please provide this court with your testimony about your plan to steal the sacred urn.